Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of Skagit Storytellers. My guest today is Mikel Perkins. Mike's the founder of a new nonprofit in Bellingham called Bellingham Helps Access Music, or BHAM for short. He is one of the most passionate, curious, and driven people I have ever met, and I highly recommend going to his website, bellinghamhelpsaccessmusic.org, to learn more about this movement. It encompasses a lot of things around music, like rehearsal spaces for bands, lessons for kids, recording spaces, and more. He tells it all in this episode. It's definitely longer than most, but I didn't want to cut anything out. He came on to talk about BHAM, but his backstory is really what drives home how important this venture is for him. As he said, BHAM is the culmination of his life's work. I love it. Listen to his story, connect with him if you want to help out in any way at all. Check out his Instagram and their website to see what events are happening next. So we recorded this episode in the summer, and since then they have had a few events, raised a bunch of money, and they have officially begun construction, I want to say this week, on their rehearsal rooms. So Mike, super proud of you for what you're doing. A lot of folks, say they want to do things like this, but you're actually someone who goes out and does the thing. I loved hearing his journey, and I think you will too. So get inspired and go help others. All right. Quick writing update. I still have 2 posts only on my Substack. The next one that I'm about to publish is regarding my 100-mile race in 100-degree weather in 2021. If you can believe it, I didn't finish the race. I'm so thankful for my incredible crew for helping me get as far as I did. My crew being my friend Danielle. And every time I wear my custom green hoodie, I smile at all the memories. All right, so the next Skagit Storytellers Podcast Writer Support Group is happening this Friday at the Central Skagit Library in Cedar Woolley from 4:45 to 5:45. Which is right before the Halloween costume party at Cat's West Side with Fetus Joe, Get Off the Stage, and The Weirds. Spencer and I are showcasing music from all 3 bands on our show this week. That's Wednesday night on That Reminds Me of Radio. All right. And of course, we're going to play another track from Matt Cook's new album because we love that one. All right, that's it. If you are listening to this on Saturday, October the 18th, when this comes out, maybe we will see you at the Big Lake Bar and Grill tonight for Shannon Patino and Forrest Stoke. All right, guys, have a great weekend. Be of use and go do something hard.
Howdy, partner. Welcome to one of the most northern parts of the United States of America. Travel with me upriver as we talk to a bunch of ladies and fellers and they share their tales of wit and wisdom. That's right, it's time again for Skagit Storytellers
with Liz Duffy. I like to start with how we met. We just met right now.
Cool. And we're on, huh?
Oh, yeah. I always just hit record.
I love that.
Who are you, Mike? And how did you end up in a Canadian's basement in Cedar Woolley?
Oh. Canadian's basement?
I'm Canadian.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So
cool.
I was born in Canada, and I left in my early 20s. I went overseas and taught a bunch, and then my last time I taught in South Korea.
Okay.
And I met a guy from Everett.
Okay.
And so came back here, got married, moved to the Skagit Valley, and now I'm married to a drummer.
Cool.
So,
yeah, that's really cool. So,
are you from Bellingham?
I'm not. I'm from Whidbey Island originally. Yeah. So my dad was in the Navy, and I was the third. So I have 3 kids. I have 2 older sisters, and my oldest sister's 10 years older, so quite a bit older. And so they moved a lot, and luckily I kind of came towards the end of my dad's Navy career, so I only had to move 3 times. I was born in Southern California, and then did elementary school in Virginia, and then moved to Whidbey Island in the early 90s. And And then from there, I basically grew up, did middle school and high school through living on Whidbey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but yeah, there's ties to Bellingham. I mean, if I go back and think about how many cities I've actually lived in Washington, it's over 20. So, like, I've lived in, like, West Seattle. I mean, if you're counting even anything longer than a couple weeks, right? But yeah, I mean, Linwood, Coopville, Oak Harbor, Anacortes. I lived in a place on Guimas Island, which is this tiny little island out in the middle of the Sound. Yeah, Bellingham, Mount Vernon. I was in Cedro for a little while. Downtown Seattle, Shoreline. But yeah, like a lot.
Well, so your dad moved around because he was in the Navy.
Yeah.
Why were you moving around so much?
Music. Yeah, so that's kind of how we ended up here.
Did you play music in school? Is that what got you started?
So my parents are really into music, and my grandpa was a music teacher, and he taught over in Pullman, and so he did mostly the high school band. So he was high school band teacher, and then he was also the private piano teacher. So that's how he ended up marrying my grandma, who was also born in Canada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, my mom, I think, would have maybe been the first U.S. born on her side. Yeah. And so when my grandpa was doing private piano lessons going to homes, and that's how he kind of met my grandma. And so he there was always music in my family, so like obviously my mom played like first chair clarinet, and
you can't say obviously, that's rare. Obviously she was an accomplished musician.
yeah well, and then my dad started a band when he was going to Pullman, so like I found a picture of him in I think a yearbook playing at like the Wazoo like college hangout,
wow.
doing like covers of like 60s bands, because this would have been like I don't know, 69, something like that, 68. So I grew up with a record collection, you know, and then they got a CD player. Like we were one of maybe the first people on the block to have a CD player. Yeah, like so I think it kind of started actually with my uncle who was in Nam. He scored like a really nice reel-to-reel system. So that was like the best way to listen to hi-fi music. Like you're basically getting the master recordings straight from the stereo with, you know, that would be kind of like the lossless version of stuff back then. So I know he got my parents into like hi-fi. So I grew up with like just a giant hi-fi system. And then so yeah, we had like CDs in 88, 89, and then my parents both kept their record collection they had bought as teenagers, like the Beatles and all that stuff. So I again being the youngest of three, I guess maybe that was kind of the parallel is I had a lot of time by myself.
Well, your sisters are probably picking on you the whole time, and you're
exactly.
like, I'm just going to go to my room.
Yeah. And then the other thing that was great, though, about it is my oldest sister, she was a teenager at this time. So she was 16 and like the height of the 80s, and I was a 6-year-old. So a lot of stuff that most people my age kind of sort of remember was like in my home. And I remember her like cutting up her jeans, and like I remember her putting a bandana on her leg. I remember her doing like the Madonna thing. Like I remember all that. And then of course she was my older sister, so she was just the coolest, right? I got a harmonica pack from my grandparents when I was like 5 or 6, and so we'd go on camping trips, and my sister always make fun of me because I get my harmonica because I had to go play it down by the river. That was specific to me for some reason. It was that, I got the harmonica. I'm going to go learn how to play it with the book by myself for some reason as a 5-year-old, but I have to do it by the river, and I have to be by myself.
You were 5?
5
wow.
or 6, yeah. So it's really hard to pinpoint like an exact moment for music in general because it just feels like it's
your whole life.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then so each part of music I got into like a lot. So first was like listening and studying, and I listened to every single record that they had, 60 or 70 of them, and then what was coming out, right? And like and then I started learning like MC Hammer dances, and like I started putting on concerts for my family as like a 7 or 8-year-old, and I was MC Perkins because my middle initial is Christopher, or my middle name's Christopher, so you know, same initials. And I made flyers like with crayons.
Oh my god!
And I put them up around my house, and then I think I might have even gone to my neighbors and put them up, and was like, this Sunday, MC Perkins. And so what I would do, and then I would I could put my boombox on the venting system up in my room because we had a 2-story house, and it would go through the vents and it would play music through the whole house. So I was like audio engineering, I was all over it, right? And then I had the flyers up, and again, I'm not sure where I got this idea, maybe just watching a lot of Back to the Future, and that whole scene of him doing his concert, and I knew there was Fish Under the Sea dance and all that. So I was really into movies, so that could have been a reason for that. But so then I'd be I remember hiding in my room and then kind of peeking out and being seeing my parents. They were really kind of cool about it. They would be like, "Oh, I think that show's coming on, right?" And my dad was super funny, and so he was just always making these jokes, and he'd sit down and they'd all be kind of waiting for me. And then sometimes I'd hang a little maybe sheet up on the stairs, so I could,
like curtains.
Yeah. And then when it was time, I'd come down, and then I would basically just do the same dance that I'd seen in the MC Hammer videos for my family. I'd even gotten the clothes and the flat top, and I was super into it.
Do you have a flyer still?
No, I do have flyers from other stuff, but not those. I don't think.
Man. That would be so cool.
I know we visited a place in in Virginia, Williamsburg. It's called Busch Gardens. It's a theme park thing, and they had one of these booths that's make your own music video. And it was a big deal because they had blue screen technology, and basically it was just for families to come in and you could kind of pretend. And they would put all these things in the background and make it look like you were on stage, and big star wipes and a lot of neon, and so my parents why don't you do that? You can do your MC Hammer thing. So there is a video VHS somewhere of I think a Too Legit. That's probably what I did, or maybe Can't Touch This. But yeah.
You had a really supportive family.
I did for music, yeah. Especially, yeah.
Did you play in high school at all, in the band, or?
Yeah, of course.
What'd you play?
I played baritone, so I wanted to play drums, and that's been an inspiration for this too, but I really wanted to play drums, and I was told by the band director that, you have to have some prior drum experience, or, taking some lessons. I'm well, I thought that's what this is, school, I'm starting from scratch. And he's yeah, that's true for everybody but the drummer. And I was oh, okay. Yeah, well, it's pretty important. I can maybe understand that. So he was we really need low brass. There's nobody doing that. And I'm I don't want to be the tuba kid. And plus, I'm very, small and
I was going to say, you're not very big. I can't picture little Mike holding a giant tuba.
Yeah, so, yes, exactly. And so, but he handed me the baritone, and it was the first thing I could kind of make, a note on. And I was oh, I can play one note instantly. And I was okay, I'll do this. And he's and we'll let you borrow it. And I was okay. So then I brought this thing home in its giant case. And it was weighed as much as I was and as big as I was. And I had to put it on the bus and then take it. But because, I wanted to practice it. Plus you had to back then. Now you don't. But you had to actually log in your practice hours. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was doing that. And then, in band, I figured out that me and the trombone player, every time we'd have a sub, we'd switch instruments to play jokes on them, and some of my other friends would clarinet and stuff like that. And then I kind of realized that oh, the trombone's the same mouthpiece, and then they'd have us play in our sectionals a lot, and I just kind of oh, what's first position? And I learned the scale on the trombone. I was oh, and it's the same notes, and I'm okay, I can play trombone now. So when they needed that, I would switch over. And then I went over and was joking around for a sub, tried the trumpet, and I was oh, smaller mouthpiece. Okay, I just need to kind of think about it like this. And then it's the same keys, as far as the scale, but they're just different notes. It's transposed. And so I kind of understood, oh, I can play a scale on a trumpet now. And then we had a clarinet at home. My sisters played, one of my sisters played that too, and my mom had hers. And my two best friends were also on clarinet at the time. And so I kind of messed around on that. And eventually I could kind of play almost all of them.
Yeah.
And then would switch around. And then I got really into guitar from watching Nirvana and wanted to learn guitar. So then I was kind of doing school band and then starting my own rock band because there was nothing for that kind of music. It was okay, yeah, if you want to do music, sure. And luckily, I liked big band and old stuff, but most of my friends didn't. They weren't rocking tunes from 1920s, like
Yeah.
right, and that's again part of what BHAMs is about, but like
Because this is like the mid 90s
yeah.
when you were getting into guitar and like,
Yeah. And that's like the whole idea of a garage band and was like really life changing for a lot of musicians. And they talk about Nirvana's impact, and I think that's like one of the biggest things is it's like it brought the music industry as a whole back to like the almost the folk musician, the like everyman, where before it was like Slash and again Madonna and MC Hammer and like all these untouchable figures. There's no way that like you and your friends were gonna ever do that. So you just never kind of thought about it that way.
Yeah.
But then when Nirvana came, it was like jeans and a t-shirt, and they were from Aberdeen, and like, oh, I have family in Aberdeen. That's like a tiny Washington town. Like, whoa, like I could do this. And so like me and a bunch of people was starting garage bands. Like there was
On Whitby?
yeah, there's probably 16 or 17, and some that had already been around, and some that got on labels, some that are still playing Potbelly, and you know,
Yeah, I know them.
yeah. So I was doing shows with Potbelly in like 95, 96. Like,
So what was your first band?
my first proper band was a cover band I had called Anonymous at my middle school. So I had gotten a guitar. Well, I had an acoustic guitar I was borrowing from my dad, and I was teaching myself some power chords. And then my friend moved down the street who had a drum set, and I went to his house, and it was the first time I remember seeing somebody play drum set, like, in person. And I was like, can I play it too? And because the music store at that time wouldn't let you. You don't want to touch it. And then the band was the same thing. They didn't have a drum set. It was all orchestra, right? So... and he, of course, was like, no, you can't touch my drum set. So, I mean, later we tried, but it was just like, I'm like, okay. So I ran home and I grabbed the acoustic guitar and, like, plugged the acoustic guitar in his parents' stereo. Because they didn't have a guitar amp or any of that. And so we, like, did our first, I only knew, like, the part of, like, In Bloom, the beginning or something like that. Like, literally, like, 2 strings and just, like, plunking it with an acoustic guitar through his parents' stereo and him just rocking drums. And I'm like, so I'd probably only had a guitar for a couple months, and I'm like, starting a band. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to do this. And then, so my other best friend that was on clarinet, and we were riding the bus together, I'm like, well, he was there. I'm like, you got to do something. So he went home, grabbed a keyboard, and so he could play, like, the bass on the low notes, plug that into the parents' stereo, and then called my other friend who was on the bus, also like, hey, after school, we're doing this thing. And so Stefan came over, and we, you know, found, like, an old, like, Radio Shack mic, plug that into his parents' stereo. So we had like all these inputs and Radio Shack connections, and we're driving down there and grabbing stuff so we can like make what we later will learn was a PA system. And
There's
you know,
easier ways, guys.
yeah, right. And I didn't even have an electric guitar, so I was like really, really driven. I knew at that point like I want to do this the rest of my life. This is what I'm gonna do. I knew I wanted to have kids, which was unusual for a man or a boy at 12 years old. I knew I wanted to be a father, and I knew I wanted to do music the rest of my life. It wasn't necessarily about being famous or whatever. It was just mostly I wanted to just do that in some fashion. And so that's kind of what really helped me is like I knew that was what I was doing. So I started working on it as a 12-year-old.
I started thinking about this quote, you know, obviously, you know, Tim Meckling. Mm-hmm. Tim talked about on one of our podcasts, I think he's been on here like 3 times, but he talked about he would pick a D musician any day over an A musician as long as they're passionate.
Oh.
And I was just thinking about like
So
you knew these 2 chords and you guys are plugging stuff into stereos and you're calling your friend going, yeah, just grab something and come over. Like I can tell, I can picture you as like a little kid, like getting so excited and your friends are like just hearing your excitement. And I just love how it's like a thing of, it's not even about really, it is about music, but it's also just about being together.
Yeah.
You know, Fletcher, who owns Dad's Diner in Anacortes, he, Tommy Stinson was playing there a couple of years ago, and Fletcher opened the concert by just thanking everyone for coming, and he said, thank you for coming because music is community and community is music.
Yes. And
I say that in my radio post every week because it's so true. Like,
well,
it's about the music, but it's about 4 eager friends who have no idea what they're doing a little bit, and they're just rocking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially on Whidbey because we in particular, those friends, we lived on the outskirts of Whidbey, so of Oak Harbor, sorry. So you know you had to drive by a couple like you know farms and some cows and a couple meth labs, and then you'd get to where we were.
No,
right?
that sounds like Concrete.
It does.
Like there's so many musicians from Concrete.
And that's where I started to really understand the Seattle music scene more, and realizing that a lot of these Seattle bands weren't actually from Seattle, and that they were from like Concrete and like places like that. And so we a lot of times sat around and like, it's a thing with your friends. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. We could go here. Again, yeah, part of it's boredom without being born in that kind of like interesting, as cool, like transitional time. We really did grow up like Gen Xers and, the boomers and like all like very much similar. Like I had a rotary phone in my house.
Oh
like,
yeah, I remember listening to music on our stereo just because I literally had nothing else to do.
Yeah, I read the
we
encyclopedia.
had one TV. I'm like, my dad's watching the show I don't want to watch.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd read the encyclopedia too.
Exactly. Yeah, I wonder about something, and instead of, I'm like, like, why do bees do that? And I go, go grab the bee or whatever. But yeah, so a lot of it was that, and specifically the isolation of Whidbey. They call it the rock because being bridge bound and all that kind of thing, like there's a sense there of loneliness, and in particular in the 90s, like the suicide rate like was really high. Like most of my yearbooks like had a in memoriam to some student I knew that had killed himself. So again, I come from music from a place of it being life-saving and it being like a really, and that's kind of what I see like what we're doing with BHAMs is at its core it's a mental health service.
And it's funny you talk about, being so isolated out there, and I was talking about upriver, and, your nonprofit is in Bellingham, which there's a lot of kids in Bellingham.
Yes.
However, they're isolated for a different reason.
Exactly.
They're isolated because they're all on their phones,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of them don't want to be.
Yeah.
They just don't know what else to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that is very astute. I would completely agree with that, and that has you kind of understanding what part of this vision is, and it being not just a mental health thing, but when you start talking about like community, and we're just kind of figuring out now what humans have known for forever, which is getting around the fire, banging on some drums, singing, dancing, being a community, right? And those got turned into different institutions, and some of it got put into church and different, they're doing the same thing. They're getting together, they're breaking bread, they're doing music, like that's, and whatever religion you are, you're going to find that across. And even if you're an atheist or you're not doing that, you're still finding a way to get together, break some bread, eat some food, right? Drink, and have music as part of that every time. Yeah. And the other part of that is storytelling, right? Like what you're doing, right? Because that's how, at its core, that's also what storytelling is when you're sharing emotions or ideas. And the best way to do that is you have to share it with somebody. So you have to have at least one other person around. So So the music is just a way to kind of share ideas, right, from the musicians, or the way artists can kind of mirror society.
It's about the music, but it's not.
Exactly, and that's what I mean, and that's kind of really what this is all about, and that's what I realized when I put my music career if I was to kind of sum it up, what it's been about is that mental health and the community aspect of it, and really just kind of that's what everybody wants and what everybody responds to.
Yeah.
I mean, babies usually are singing before they're talking, right? I remember my daughter doing these little cooey sounds, 3 or 4 months old. I'd like wake up to a baby monitor of her like practicing, her vocals or,
Have you read the book called Tribe by Sebastian Junger?
I haven't.
You'd really like it.
Okay.
He talks a lot about that kind of thing. So when you were in these garage bands with your friends, all excited in high school,
yes.
What came after that?
Middle school.
Or middle school.
Right,
okay,
right, yeah. And
did you play harmonica in the band too?
No. I kind of kept that as a pocket thing, and again, there was no rivers nearby. So.
Like, guys, we need to show down by the river. Why?
Yeah.
It's just because.
So when I did enter in high school, that being a freshman, so I had my middle school band, and we were, very much the only middle school band. But we were playing like the assemblies, and we hadn't played anything but at school for all 2,000 of us overpacked at, because they only had one at that time.
And you were a cover band?
Yeah. So when we got into high school, then we got to see these like seniors, and they were doing like different stuff. And there was a whole group that had already been doing. That's how I met like Potbelly and things like that. And they like had flyers for shows, and I was like, well, where's that? And like, yeah, it's at the Oof Temple. I'm like, well, that weird place like where people play bingo or whatever. Like, isn't that across the street from the like police station? Like, you're gonna do like a punk rock show there? And like, how do you do that? Whatever. And I went with some friends, and then there were some bands there, like in the punk scene that I had recognized and I knew, and like, I mean, it's real kind of like, indie stuff, but like, 90 Pound Wuss was a show I remember, but I had their album and stuff, so they had come to Oak Harbor, which I just thought was crazy, because we were all thinking about how to get to Seattle and how to go to LA or New York or one of these places, and to see like some of these seniors that I went to school with in bands, and they had bigger amps, better equipment. They were putting on shows, and I immediately after going to that show, I asked some of the people there, I was like, how did you do this? And they're like, well, you just call this guy, and then it costs this much to rent it. You have to make sure you have 2, off-duty police officers for security, and you have to do X, Y, and Z, right? So I was like, all right. Well, we're 14 though. Like, we don't have jobs or cars. So made friends with the seniors, found somebody that had a job, and was like, hey, can we borrow $200? Like, we'll get it back to you. He's like, I guess. And so we borrowed $200 from the senior, and then, they said, well, it's actually, $300. And we're like, oh. They're like, but if you do it for charity, then we'll make it $200. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, then we called the Help House. And again, I'm 14. Called the Help House, and they're like, can we do a charity fundraiser for you? They're like, yeah, okay. So came up with a system where you could get in the concert for $4 or $3 with 1 can of food, $2 with 2, or $1 and 3. So yeah, we did the show, and people showed up, and they're, all these kids were just basically grabbing, pumpkin mix and stuff or whatever, and then catching the free transit system, which was really great. And of course, then like kids would do that. They would just 14 get on the transit and go to some Elks Lodge or Oof Temple or Knights of Columbus or whatever. And but again, the place doesn't have a PA system, so like we got a PA system, and my dad like rushed me down to Guitar Center, and to my mom's chagrin, like just kind of bought a lot of PA equipment without asking, and that was a big fight and argument and stuff. But he was excited about it, because he was kind of seeing he kind of knew what it was about, and so he got the PA system, and he would help run it. So, and then one of our other friends would do the booth, and then we're doing the charity thing, and then we managed to get enough money to pay the overhead and then give some to charity, and then we got to put on a concert. And then of course I had to find other bands, so I contacted some of these other cooler bands that I knew. Hey, well, would you come play with us, please? And they were like, sure, kid, and then I'd put us as the openers, so we'd come up with our sloppy punk grunge stuff, and then like the really cool bands, Potbelly would play, or Prozac Staple was like a band from LaConner that was like very prevalent at the time, or even like
is Failed Abortions from Oak Harbor too?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was talking to one of those guys at Buxton's a while ago.
So what's interesting too is from that scene, a lot of just slightly younger people were coming to those shows that I was doing. So a lot of those bands like are those kids growing up, or the little brothers and sisters. So now that I'm back in this area, when I run into them, they're like, oh, you're Mike from this band, or I remember seeing you from these shows I'm talking about that I was putting on, and some of my friends were. And again, nobody was asking us, like nobody had to ask me to practice, or like they had asked me to stop, right?
But I love that how you're putting on the show because you want to play.
Yeah.
That's like your goal is like you want to play. And
there wasn't a place to do that. It wasn't an all-ages club. Yeah,
and without knowing it, these kids are coming and they're watching you. And just like you went to your first show and you were like, how do you do that? They were like, oh my gosh, look at that guy up on stage. That's why I love the Swamp so much.
Yes.
It's so like, I love that I'm getting to see it in its early renditions and seeing all the kids come.
Me too.
Oh,
Because
so
a lot
fun.
of them are like AMP. A lot of them are like parents of or that are like around my age and went to these shows too, and they remember going to these as a teen and seeing like my bands, my friends' bands, and stuff like that, and remembered how much of a great cultural scene it was and how good it was for. I mean, all the parents knew. It's not like they didn't know where their kids were. They knew where they were because they were all in one place, and there was like security, and it was safe, and there wasn't alcohol, and it was very, very cool. So
Yeah.
it's neat to see like that coming back, right? And trying to bring that back. But yeah, I didn't realize then what I was doing. I just had like a goal, and
Yeah.
I wanted to find out how. And the only way I kind of knew at the time was watching like documentaries, and that's why I love like podcasts. And I'm obviously a talker, but I love these kind of things and documentaries and just I'm always researching constantly.
I was going to say, I feel like your brain's always trying to figure things out.
It is. I'm one of
Yeah.
those people.
I guess, what was the next progression after that?
Well, right before that, I was in a band called Shiver.
And you're still in high school at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was in a band called Shiver because we were playing with these older guys. My band had kind of started to fall apart a little bit. What is very typical. It's hard to be in a band because it's like a marriage with 4 people, right? And so that just kind of was falling apart. And one of these older bands we were playing with, they were doing the same thing. So I had just around that time finished high school early, 2 years early, because I knew that another 2 years wasn't going to get me like the experience thing. I needed to be playing shows. I needed to be putting out demo tapes. I didn't have time to sit there in math class when I was like, can I just take a test and be done? And they're like, sure, it's called a GED. And I'm like, but you have to be like senior level. And I'm like, I don't care. I want to do this now. So like sophomore year, I took my GED test, and my parents like, well, if you pass it and like, then I guess we'll let you do that. And so I got my GED at like 16 and got a job, bought a car, and started going to college. And that way I had the time to do bands. And
Where'd you go to college?
Skagit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you moved over here to Mount Vernon, or?
No, they had a satellite school.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
In Oak Harbor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're living at home,
Yes.
going to college.
Yeah, working at Wendy's.
Yeah.
Playing in my band and with the older guys. So the older, because they weren't at school. Because I was like, now school's in, I'm 16. All my actual like friends of my peers are in class, but these older guys that we had been playing shows with were not. And so I was going to their place, and I realized that they had a bunch of bands. They were all friends. I didn't know that like this band I thought was really cool, and this one, and like they were switching members, and it wasn't a competition, and it was very friendly, and people were just kind of showing up and unannounced, and it would just be this bass player from this band and this one from this one.
Oh, cool.
And then so bands would kind of germinate from that. And Shiver was the one that did that, and it was with this guy that was about 8 years old. We thought he was super old, right? Because he was like 26, and we were,
I didn't realize there
18
was
or
a
whatever.
big scene over in Oak Harbor.
Yeah,
Ruby Island.
massive.
Yeah, huh.
Yeah, they're working on a documentary about it right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it got so big that when Seattle and stuff got word of it, like Seattle bands at a time were coming and booking shows there at these kind of events.
Oh, wow.
Because they were packed.
Yeah.
Because the kids again had nothing else to do really, but
Yeah.
but it was really cool. It was a movement, and you had
Yeah.
people doing flyers and street teams, and it was like very much still kind of left over from that 90s, early 90s scene.
So you were in Shiver for a while?
Yeah, for a couple years, and we got a manager, and he was getting his shows like off island. So then I was like playing these bars as a 16-year-old, and we'd have to wait outside, and I had to go to the bathroom. That was a big deal. I had to find like somebody to escort me, and I wasn't allowed to like go towards the alcohol at all, in any way. And so, and then often we were going on at midnight or whatever, so I just kind of wait outside in the car till midnight and then go through the back door. Somebody else would have to set up my gear sometimes if they were really...
Oh, wow.
Because the law is like you can only be up to play.
Yeah.
But Washington state law lets minors perform.
Yeah.
It's like leftover from vaudeville or something. Child labor days. But yeah, so I was playing in bars, and so some of the like kind of classic ones, and like Ballard Firehouse, and like the Central Tavern, and the ones I had read about, like Nirvana playing, and I had seen in these books that I was getting in the library and these documentaries. Oh yeah, they opened for so and so at this venue, and I'm like trying to figure out how do you play those, right?
Yeah.
So our manager was helping us get that, and so we started making connections off island, and that was a big deal for Oak Harbor band to like play Seattle at all. It was so hard. It was sending demo tapes and all that kind of stuff. So that band helped a lot, and we played the grand opening for the skate park for Anacortes. So like going there and like seeing my daughter skate, I'm like, I remember being here and playing the concert. Like we were the band they asked to do that because we were the cool band from the area at that time, you know. And then we did the same thing for Oak Harbor, played that, you know. And then like one of the bass players we knew got in a band called, he was in that first band I was in. He got in a band called Lonely Forest, and they got like signed, and he ended up, you know, a few years later I see him on Jimmy Kimmel, and like it was just so cool to see all this happen.
Yeah.
So, but Shiver eventually
Was Shiver original music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a mixture of like Nirvana and The Cure. And so it was really different because a lot of people were doing kind of a Blink-182 thing, and there's a big Christian punk scene as well. And so we would kind of come up there with our depressing, you know, Sunny Day Real Estate, Deftones inspired music. But our you know, our guy being a little older was coming from, you know, Knapsack and like all this like 80s goth and Bauhaus and Cure. And so it was like a really neat mix, right?
Yeah.
And he lives in Bellingham now, by the way. We
cool.
reconnected. So I eventually got off island, and so I was using that Shiver CD as kind of like, oh, this is what I've done so far, because that was the first band I had that had put an album out that we recorded and were selling out of like, you know, at shows in the back of the car. And I know because we made each one that we probably sold about 5,000 to 6,000.
Oh wow!
Of the first one, and another couple, so maybe 10,000 albums, which is like considerable, especially, you know, at the time, right? So. But yeah, so that kind of helped me get into the Seattle scene, was just that since I had started so young, by the time I had moved off from 18, 19 and was like living in Mukilteo, got a job at Guitar Center, started making more connections there, and then started playing in like multiple Seattle bands and got a drum endorsement and kind of was like getting...
Oh, you finally got to play the drums.
Yeah. Yeah, during this time, all this, I wanted to do the drums. My parents were starting getting frustrated about how much I was not doing regular stuff, like finishing. Like I stopped the college thing. Like I wasn't planning my future out the way they wanted to.
What were you taking in college?
Ancient world history and philosophy and psychology.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you hadn't started like the music part of
there
college.
Wasn't a degree for not at Skagit. There was like an overall like performance degree, or if you wanted to play like clarinet or something, but there wasn't like a rock.
Why did you even go to college? You just felt like you had to?
Because I was supposed to.
You're okay.
Yeah, that was the deal. Yeah. If I dropped out, I had to like still do that. And I liked going. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't want to be there because
music took over.
It was a waste of time for me at that moment.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously being parents, I can understand like why you'd be like, hey, I get that. But there was a sense of like, cut your hair and get a real job. Like it was cute at first when you were doing your MC Hammer thing, but like you got to pay rent next month. How are you going to do that? Yeah. And I'm like, I can't have a backup because then that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
So I have to make this and I knew too that there was no other. I wouldn't survive if I wasn't doing it. It's part of my DNA.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyways, they wouldn't buy me a drum set because they already bought the guitar and they're already fighting about the PA system and, like, almost divorcing over it and all this stuff. So I needed money to buy a drum set. It was about $400 or $500. I got my FIFA license. I was, like, one of the youngest soccer referees, 12 years old or something. And so I was refereeing soccer games, like the center, not just the linesman, but, like, the youth games and then in college. And then I would go to Bellingham because they'd have this big tournament. And I'd referee in those tournaments, and I got enough money to buy my own drum set at 14. And then I started teaching myself.
Oh, okay.
So before that, I was beating on pillows because I heard Dave Grohl learned by beating on pillows, and I wanted to I loved his drumming, so I was like, okay, that's how he learned. then I'm going to do that. Crank my stereo up. I put my, the Christmas lights up and put them on flash mode and crank the stereo up and just like beat the hell out of my bed to try to figure out how to play drums.
I think Spencer said he played Communication Breakdown for like hours a day when he first got a drum set.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
I just wanted to learn a drum beat, he said, and so he just nonstop.
Me too. And same thing with guitar. Like, I wasn't interested in like all the techniques and aspects. I was like more songwriting, bands. That was my focus. But yeah, so I did get a drum set that way. And then that was part of what helped in high school, was that I wasn't just a guitar player. I played drums. And then everybody needed a drummer. So
did you play drums in Shiver?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's when I made the switch.
Yeah.
Guitar was first. Yes, and that's why I was drumming in Shiver, because I was drumming in these other bands. So freshman year, we did I had seniors that were much better musicians, just needed a drummer, and I was like, I'll do it. And I didn't know the songs, and it was kind of like Back to the Future. If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. I really believed that, and I still do. And so, I was like, well, I'll learn the song. I'll just tell them I know it. And by the time they show up, maybe I got to practice 20 hours or maybe, And then so I did. I would just keep one step ahead. So I had, a Pixies cover band. I was in a ska band, of course, and, grunge band. And so Monday would be these group of people getting off the bus. Tuesday, and again, you can see why my parents might have been like, oh my God. You have 5 bands coming here, and then I got a little, little Porta Studio, Tascam 4-track, and then I was recording people. So then I had bands come over I wasn't even in, and I was recording their demo tapes so that they could get shows and sell them at, the other ones I was helping book. So that's how I got into audio engineering and stuff at that same time. So, yeah. So by the time I'm 19 or whatever, I've already done some touring, played in a couple bands, recorded some albums, released some albums.
Your philosophy textbook was covered in dust.
I was reading, I got super into ancient philosophy and Eastern philosophy, and I converted to Taoism around that time.
Oh, I was just referring to, you said you said that you didn't really go to college.
I didn't, right? But I still was studying on my own because it was fun.
You just weren't attending class.
Exactly, right? And which is a more reason for me not to, because for me I didn't have to be forced to, because I just like learning stuff. It's fun for me. Yeah. So it was just the fact that it was on their terms and when they said, and I wanted to learn about quarks and nanoscience and metaphysics at 2 a.m. not at 9 a.m. because I'm going to bed at 9 a.m. not waking up. I'm on musician hours, as my dad would say, vampire hours. But that's just my circadian rhythm has always been kind of more late night, so I could just do more studying, get more done in between all this stuff during the day.
So you were kind of bouncing around the Seattle scene for a few years.
And I had gotten in a couple bands and started a record label with one of them because I went to go see the Bad Brains because they were a huge influence on me for punk, and they're kind of legendary. And the opening band said I needed a drummer, so I was whoa, if they're opening for the Bad Brains, that'll be cool. And they were playing at the Fun House, which at that time was right under the Space Needle. So it was the next thing that I wanted to do was play this level of clubs in Seattle as a drummer, opening up for really great acts that I love, legendary ones. And so I did that one, and then I moved in with them for a point, or we talked about having a house, and at that point you could just 4 or 5 people could get an old World War II house in Seattle, and you could kind of do a waiter job for $200 or $300, and that would pay your rent. And then the rest of the week you just practice, do your shows, whatever you needed to do. And that's a big reason the Seattle scene became so legendary and so popular worldwide, is because it was somewhat accessible for people to do at that time. Of course, now that's not the case, so things have changed, but and I can talk about that. But yeah, so I was in that band, and that band kind of started to fall apart. And at this point, I was like, okay, I've been through so many bands, and as the drummer, when the band breaks up, you're losing the songs, you're losing the band name, because I would see the lead singer or whatever of a band that broke us up. 2 years later, get back together, but maybe in Texas. So he's able to kind of like carry the work of like the merchandise and just like the essentials, like the website and stuff like that, the MySpace page or whatever it is. And so being a drummer, though, you don't. You're just like, ugh. And since I was doing that for each band, because I get in the band as a drummer and be like, okay, we should do this and we should do that and this and that. And like, why don't we have shirts? And like, how come we haven't made a demo tape? You're trying to get shows, but you don't have this. Like, it was clear to me what needed to happen. But everybody else was kind of like, let's just jam and have fun. And I'm like, no, it has to be for something. Like, also, because music's already fun and like it's already like wonderful and lovely. But like, wouldn't it be even more fun if we had like little goals that we could kind of hit? Not everybody saw it that way, but you know,
like, shut up, drummer, just play your beat.
Totally. So, because during this whole time, I was recording myself playing a bunch of different instruments. Since now I could play, and I got the Foo Fighters album, the first one, and realized that it was Dave Grohl playing all the instruments because it didn't sound that way. It sounded like a band, like when you listen to it.
He played all the instruments on that?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
so
that.
like the Big Me and I'll Stick Around and those first hits, it's just him, right? And he had his roommate, Barrett, who I've become friends with. He's super cool. He recorded all of it. He's got a studio called Laundry Room.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so it was really just like 2 people made that, and I was like, oh, wow, okay. So I started to lay down the drums, and then so I was writing my own songs on the side while I was drumming for other bands. Eventually, I had like all these cassettes of songs, and this band had broken up, and I was just like, why don't I just re-record these? I'll go back, and now I'm a much better player, do it at a professional level, and then I could. Then the only reason the band wouldn't do well would be like kind of on me, right? And I wouldn't be able to say like, oh, it didn't work out because so-and-so, broke up the group or whatever. It would be me. So, okay, I'll play all the instruments. And so I wanted to work with Jack Endino because he was Nirvana's producer in Soundgarden, and I was kind of idolizing him as this great audio engineer. So I just kind of sought him out and kept being where he was and giving him my tapes, and then just kind of over and over. And I would book bands with people that I know he knew, and then would kind of make friends with them and be like, hey, by the way, if you see Jack, tell him I want to record with him. Eventually, I booked him on my concert, and then he got to see us play live. And then he was like, okay, I'll produce you. I was like, oh my God, Nirvana's producer is going to do my record. So coming from that as a 12-year-old doing these covers on Whidbey, to like, now I'm talking to him, and and he's gonna do my album, and we're gonna be like recording through some of the same equipment that, like About a Girl was sang through. Like I was mind blowing. So that was a big game changer, right? So then I put out that album, and then I obviously had to find musicians to do it live, and that again just cut out a lot of stuff.
Was that just under your own name? I
named it MakLak because I wanted it to look like a band, and I wanted it to eventually be a band.
Okay.
Because I like teamwork, and I never wanted to be a solo dude. And so, and I thought this was a good way to just like have a band that's like already there. Like, here's a template you can join, play the songs that have already been released, and then we'll write the new ones together. And this would be a way to kind of form a band. Because that's again how Foo Fighters was formed, right? He grabbed like the members from Sunny Day and kind of like they did their first album and then started writing more together, right? And it became a band later.
It's kind of like when you went to that first show and you were like, "Whoa, how do you put this show on? What do you do?" And they told you, and so you looked at the Foo Fighters album. You're like,
"Yes.
Okay, what did he do? Okay, this. Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, and then that's again like with the going to like how I found Jack Endino. I was like, okay, he's still around. He's still doing like a lot of these people. I'm like, well, who is their manager? I'm looking through these lists, and then I was like, okay, well, this is what should happen. I'm going to have shirts. I'm going to do this and this. And so within like 2 or 3 months of starting my thing and just trying it, we were playing like really big shows, and we had a write-up in like Seattle Weekly. And then I put a tour together because I met somebody that could help. And I was just copying tour lists from like Nirvana's 1989 tour because I knew that around that time they'd be in a van, they'd be playing about this certain, capacity venue, and that, it was like a West Coast run a lot of people do. And I would just see if that club was still there. Oh, it's called this now, but it's still there. So I booked my own tour, and learned how to do that. Now we're like do another checkbox, right? And so we end up doing a bunch of those, and MakLak is still going, and we got signed to a record label eventually, and yeah, we're working on a third album right now.
Oh, so you're still in the band right now?
Yeah.
Or is it still going? Cool.
Yeah. And it still started from that. But yeah, it's definitely like a full band now. You know, I'm not, definitely haven't been the only one since then. And that's been, if as a band, it's been about 10 years. But me starting it would have, I don't know, 20 something years ago.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Wow, I love your backstory.
It's long.
No, it's great. No, don't apologize.
But yeah.
I mean, have you ever told this whole story?
Not really, not in one.
Yeah. No, I love it.
Yeah.
Do you know Bob Peltro? He's in Cats Like Us.
Yeah, I know Cats Like Us. I don't know him personally.
He's like the lead guy on the keyboard.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
He told an amazing story about his piano teacher when he was a kid. He wanted to piss her off, so he learned Stairway to Heaven. It's like, oh, after I play this, I'm gonna play it for her, and she's gonna be so mad, and I'm gonna say, fuck you, and I'm not gonna play this classical shit anymore. And anyway, she loved it. She was like, I love Led Zeppelin. He's like, no, you don't. You know, you old fuddy-duddy. You know, he said, you know, we tell him the story. He said she was probably 30, you know, but I just saw her, this old lady. And when he told the story, you know, I published the episode, and he was listening to it, and he wrote me, and he just said, Liz, I was bawling during that, because he told the story a lot, but he had never heard himself tell it, which I thought was really interesting. Like, I know that a lot of people that share stories on here, they've shared them before with other people, but to hear yourself telling your own story is
true.
Really cool. So, and how old's your daughter?
She's 13.
See, I mean, I'm sure you've told her a couple of these things.
Yeah, a few.
But I love that she'll be able to sit down and like hear this whole story of you, you know?
Me too.
And then she can listen to it again and again.
Right. That's one of the reasons, I mean, I got into audio engineering, because you're really a historian, right?
Yes.
And what you're doing, because it's one thing just to have a conversation, but when you record it and cast it, and now you're making history of it, right?
And one day,
you're documenting it.
Yeah, one day your daughter's going to have kids, and she'll be like, hey, do you want to hear about your grandpa?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
Well, that was like one of the things we did for my grandpa, who was the music teacher, was for his, I don't know, 70-something birthday. We got him some studio time, because he'd never been recorded, right?
Really?
Because he was just playing like gigs and, you know, bringing his piano and stuff around, like literally hauling around a piano.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about like the 40s and 50s. It's not like they're...
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So you'd have to be like really something to get in the studio. And he was more the gigging and the teaching, right? And so, yeah, we got him to record. So there is like a tape that, you know, anybody can listen to. And I've showed it to my daughter and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I guess, because is it you and who's the other person that's on...
I'm the founder of it. And
okay.
Yeah.
There was someone else on... Yeah,
Carlene is a retared teacher, and she's definitely helped get this start up in a big way.
So when did it officially start, I guess?
In May is like when the forms were signed. It's been very quick.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So what was the, like, initial, like, you probably been thinking about this for a while, like, oh, it'd be cool to start something, or were you looking for it, and then suddenly you're like, fuck, I'll just do it, guys.
30 years.
30 years
is how long I'm thinking about it. Yeah, because it's BHAMs is my whole career put into one spot. So I know we kind of paused somewhere in the middle there, but yeah, after I was doing all that stuff, I did audio engineering and teaching and that kind of stuff. So BHAMs is really all of that. And so I've been kicking around these ideas from just seeing and being part of the scene and what the needs were, specifically like in this area, right? Like north of Seattle.
Because you've been in Bellingham for how long?
I've been there a year.
Oh, just a year. Okay.
Yeah, before that though, I was in Mount Vernon for a couple of years.
Okay.
And then before that, we were in Linwood. So I've been like so from Whidbey kind of slowly moved closer to Seattle, and then like slowly got priced out and moved. And that's kind of what happened to the Seattle scene, or what's been happening is if you get priced out, and the options are kind of like north or south. So.
And when you say we, you mean you and Zoe?
I mean like the music scene.
Oh, okay. Oh no, you were saying that we kept moving.
Yes. So me and Zoe.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just the two of us and a cat. And Gizmo. So yeah, we were in Mount Vernon and then Bellingham. But I just mean like going to school in Anacortes
Yeah.
and Oak Harbor, and having been at Mount Vernon and Cedro and going to shows and all that, like what the difference was there between Seattle, right, where if you need a practice room, there's 190 of them, right, where if Bellingham, there's like 7.
See, I didn't even know that. I was looking at that on your website. You were talking about how little space there is, and I'm just ignorant to that fact because I'm like, well, we just practice there.
Yeah.
And then I know, like, I'm trying to think of where my other friends practice. They all kind of have areas in their house.
Right.
And one person told me that, like, back in the day, the members were in Bellingham, Stanwood, Everett. They would meet at a storage unit.
Yes.
And then play like once a month or once every couple of months,
Yeah, those are the storage sheds in Everett. They're legend. I mean, Alice in Chains practice there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think they're still running because I think it got burned down or something.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the furthest north of a practice space. But that happens all the time. Yeah, where not everybody's in the same city, right? Or in the same town, or they just don't have, the luck of having nice neighbors or a basement or something like that.
A soundproof shed or something.
Yeah, because it's loud. Even if you're a saxophone player, if you're trying to play at full volume, like it's hard to do that in most places. And another thing to consider is the cost of housing and how this would affect musicians, right? Because if the same amount of money goes to a much smaller place, you're losing the garages, you're losing the basements.
Yeah.
So like I live in a very small apartment. And so I can't go play drums in my place anymore, right? Whereas before, it was a little easier to afford, and I could.
Yeah.
So I have to go store my drums. But now I'm paying for them to just sit in a storage unit. And if I want to play them, I need to, like, get them out and go take them somewhere and play them and then set them all back down. Right? So that's kind of true for a lot of people now that maybe would have been in a house that can only afford an apartment or some kind of shared living situation. But even in a house, you still have a lot of issues with neighbors. And actually, I'm going to show you something real quick, and hopefully this will pick up. I found this going through old VHSs of one of these bands. We were recording ourselves in the garage, and so we had a little VHS camera filming us, right? And I'll just play it here.
Oh my God.
That's me on drums.
I love this.
Now watch what happens.
What in the world are you kids doing? The rest of this neighborhood has some rights too, and it's not to listen to this crap on a Sunday afternoon. I'll tell you, this is the third year of this. It's also the last year of this, because I'm going to take it right down to court if I have to, but you're going to be considerate of the other people who live in this neighborhood. You're not going to make this kind of racket here with...
And that's real.
Yeah.
That's like a neighbor coming over?
Yeah, you can see the video. Yeah. There's my parents' garage. That's Mike Fideli, and this is George Partington. And this was our band, Bliss, and this would have been like 1996, maybe.
30 years ago.
Yeah, maybe
You're like, we got to find a
something
solution to this.
Yeah, and that's out. He lived 2 blocks away.
That guy?
Yeah. And he was outside in his back patio and could hear us.
Wow.
He didn't like that. And yeah, he did call the cops on my parents a bunch.
Wow.
So we had to switch houses and go to like somebody else's houses in the neighborhood that had a little like more soundproofing or whatever, or was further away from the neighbor that didn't like it. What's funny is he's like doing that, and like my sister's inside watching TV. Like it's not like that loud.
Yeah.
He just didn't like the idea of it, right? And that was part of it. Is like, maybe if the type of music we were doing and, a little clash, generational clash, maybe a little bit culture clash, but yeah, so I just thought that was so funny when I found that. I was like, oh my God, this has been an issue since I was a kid of like having places to practice. And like MakLak, we practice right now at the Rock Rooms, which is like substation. And I used to work over there in the studio.
Is that in Bellingham?
It's in Ballard.
Oh, okay.
So I drive from Bellingham to Ballard.
Oh, everyone lives down there?
No, nobody lives in the same city. One's in Redmond, one's in Seattle, one's in Lake Stevens.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm in Bellingham. And yeah.
That's where you
So,
practice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's kind of the closest sort of for most of them, and then like most efficient, at least for now, until we find something else. But
if you ever need a spot,
hey,
come on over.
Thanks, man. Well, I'm gonna have a bunch of rooms here very soon, but again, that doesn't solve the problem of those guys coming up. But
because I was noticing like on your website, I love it because it's very detailed. Like, this is what we're gonna do. Like, it's not just like we're gonna provide lessons at very reduced cost, and provide instruments, all that stuff. But then it's like you're talking about all your rehearsal spaces that you're going to do. And then you also mentioned having touring bands come and practice.
Yeah.
And I never thought about that being an issue, because if a touring band is going to play at, I don't know, let's just say the New Prospect Theater, like, wouldn't they just go there and practice? Or, like, do they need to practice before the show? I guess I just don't know. I didn't know that was an issue.
Totally. Well, and at a certain level too, when like there's a lot of bands that exist where nobody's in the same city, or
like your band,
or the same state, or the same country.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's been the case for a lot of times. Like even like a lot of your favorite bands, my Red Hot Chili Peppers from LA or whatever. I'm just using it at the top of my head, but like the drummer probably they don't live in the same city. So they have to like meet somewhere, and they usually meet at the start of a tour. And so you would meet like a week ahead of time. Everybody's been doing, if you're a professional, you don't need to have a bajillion practices. You just need a couple. So they'll meet with the equipment and the gear, and the whole team will be assembled like in the first city of the tour.
Oh, got it.
And then that's where you would need a place to rehearse. Like that's actually how I met Michael Nesmith of the Monkees, which was like a big deal.
I've heard of him.
Because he was one of those records, right? And I used to watch that show. Here we
Yeah,
go.
me too.
I also used to hate on them because
Why?
they were not, they didn't play their real instruments, and they ripped off the Beatles and blah, blah, blah. But, I matured out of that because, they were really cool. And Mike was he was like one of the only ones at that time. And later the rest of the guys learned and whatever. But they were musicians, and Mike in particular was super good. He was the only one who wore the hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, this was him doing his solo tour, playing his last one. He had some heart issues, and he passed away shortly after. But he needed a spot, and his first shows were in Seattle, and I was running that studio at Substation there. And Substation was also rehearsal spaces. And so he rented out the studio I was running. So I got to spend, a couple days there just making sure his practices went well, and if he wanted them recorded, he could, and played back, and
wow,
like help him with his lyric sheet and all that. And
that's really cool.
Yeah, and I grabbed one of those albums because I inherited my parents' record collection, and I found the one, my mom's actual Monkees record. I had him sign it for both of them.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it was really cool. So that could really help Bellingham too, like because they're already getting like some pretty good touring acts and like a lot of more, national and international bands and stuff. So, it's between Seattle and Vancouver, right? So there's like a good possibility there to have another stop on the way. Oh, for
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
When I had Shane Gilness on, he's the lead singer of Fanny Alger. He was talking about, he used to be a DJ at the college radio station, KSVR, and he said that one night someone called and they were like, hey, can we, like, is there any place to, like, play? Because we want to book a show. Because they were playing in Vancouver. Then they had a day off and they were playing in Seattle.
Sure.
And he's like, I don't know. There's not really any place to play. It was the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, my God.
I know.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
Wow.
Everyone starts somewhere. But you're right.
It tells me exactly, yeah.
We're in this weird gap,
That's exactly right. Yeah. And, they're doing a pretty, like, I've seen some pretty good last thing I saw, I think, was High on Fire.
Okay.
They're a great band. They had a Grammy, which is really cool. I did some work for Jeff, the bass player, for his other band. But, they sold out that place and have a Grammy award-winning band and beat locals, like, coming through Bellingham. But, even, like, the Melvins or some of their bigger comedy shows. I saw David Cross not too long ago from, like, Mr. Show and stuff. But, there's a lot of potential there. And what's been interesting to see in Bellingham, and why I chose Bellingham, in a way it kind of chose me, but was being in the Seattle scene and watching it at its height kind of in the 90s, and then watch it kind of die and go down, and the music industry kind of collapsed as a whole for a while, and then to watch it kind of rise back up, and then kind of slowly die again for different reasons, which of being, you know, mostly housing costs and the cost of being in a band. So, like I said, most people have moved north or south, and I was just pointing this out to the owner of the Blue Room, Martine, that one of my board members was down at the Seattle Center for Bye to Seattle, which is like something I played years back, which was like a huge event. You'd want to play that. There's thousands of people. And she's showing me a video, and there's like maybe 60 people in front of the stage. And you can see the Space Needle and the, you know, the park and everything, and it's like kind of empty.
Oh, yeah, that was just on, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then and I had been at his club like a couple of nights before in Bellingham, and there was like a couple hundred kids like packed in there having a great time. And he was kind of worried about, and I'm like, look, like this scene right now in Bellingham is like a lot kind of how Seattle was like in the 90s. Like, it's very community based. If you go out on any like given night, like there's a lot of people out. Of course, the college has something to do with that, but it's not just college kids. It's like families. It's, you know, it's retired people. It's like people of all types, and people coming down from Canada and having a weekend or spending a week there, and maybe they're doing some mountain biking or whatever. But yeah, just on any given Wednesday night, like they're doing downtown sounds. Like I was just there for that. There's thousands of people there.
Oh, the County Row show? Or the one before that?
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
They were awesome. And then food trucks, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, face painting, and that's just a Wednesday night in Bellingham in the summer. And so yeah, in a lot of ways, I just see where Bellingham is just being like having enough there and having a lot of growth potential, but not having some of the same infrastructures that some of the larger music cities have, like rehearsal spaces. You know, Mukilteo has a great one. I practiced there at the Vortex. Everett had the Sheds. I think there's one at Linwood. Seattle has a legendary one. I used to practice at the Rainier building. So the old Rainier Brewery is like now practice rooms, and you ride this old elevator that's like
really
very scary, and you got to put all your equipment in it. And yeah, I was in that with Jack and Dino and his band called Upwell. But yeah, that's like going towards SeaTac, right?
Yeah.
But my point is that, you know, all these, even Mukilteo is smaller than Bellingham, and they have 60-room facility over there. And so that infrastructure, it just doesn't exist in Bellingham. And even for the venues, like they're opening up now another venue or two, because there's so much there, and people are so supportive that they're kind of just trying to put bands in like pizza places. And if there's an open corner in Bellingham to put music, like they'll put it in there.
Oh, my favorite spot is it El Capitan?
Yeah.
There,
right?
You have bands in there? Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
We saw Hachi there, and I was like, how do you squeeze this many people in the tiniest room?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's amazing. And
I love it.
And it's definitely like that spirit of Bellingham that I really, really love, and the people there. And so the support's there, just the infrastructure's not quite there. And then like as soon as I did this, I had like 6 or 7 people go like, oh, I was thinking about doing that. I was, because yeah, in the music community, it's obvious like that need's not there.
Yeah.
But from getting into the education side, like I started teaching private lessons because people were coming to me at those shows at Shiver and were like, hey, I really like your playing. Can I take lessons from you? Can my little brother, can you come to my house? So I started teaching at the same time around 15, 16. So that's why I have so much teaching experience, because like going to people's homes and doing private lessons, I started as a kid.
Right.
And so eventually I ended up working for some music schools, and then I started working at Guitar Center and running their lessons program in Bellingham most recently.
Oh, okay.
And got to know like the music education community and like some of the families, and got to see what's going on, you know, there. And now I think specifically, and noticing like half of the students were people over 50, and like all the retired people that want to learn how to play guitar, and noticing a big gap of the teenagers like not showing up as much, but the ones that did were usually had parents that had gone to shows and understood the importance of this, right?
Yeah.
But and then having my daughter in the symphony, and then I volunteered in Mount Vernon for their school programs and their booster clubs and stuff
Oh,
like
cool.
that too.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to know like the education system pretty well for a long time, and been doing private lessons for over 20 years. Still do them, and I just came from one right now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, but of course, I could see the struggles with education and music, and like I mentioned, one of them being the choices for what type of music, right? Be like, I want to learn painting. It's like, well, we're only doing watercolor. Like, that's it. Like, what about pencils? No,
No
so
pencils.
like, so it's kind of like the same idea of like, okay, and then being a teacher and figuring out like, well, I can go to their home, but if we have a space, with 2 drum sets, then we could, do a lesson a little better. But then again, the cost of this and that, and just kind of like all the things that could be improved on it. And that's part of what we're doing is like the sliding scale aspect, because teachers are struggling. A lot of the music programs are getting cut from our schools, right? They're losing marching band and all these other things, right? So a lot of those teachers are teaching privately, like to try to make up for that. But the lesson rates for private lessons have like stagnated. Like I make less now for private lessons than I did like 10 years ago. So it's not just stagnated, it's actually kind of reduced. Recording costs have also kind of done that a little bit. But as a person trying to earn a living, it doesn't match the rising cost of house, right? So you're kind of left with 2 options. Like you charge the students more, or you pay the teachers less. And there's usually some model of that somewhere. And so I thought, well, there's got to be a way to like pay the teachers a decent way and make it cheap or almost free. Because I think when you're getting into like education or knowledge or anything like that, like it's kind of weird that it's sold at all. Like, and I really feel like, yeah, I understand time and people's, is definitely valuable, but music should be kind of for everybody, and it should be accessible. Education just, I don't know, I just don't think should be like commoditized as much. It just, you run into issues, right, with how many students and having to put numbers and it's so much more personal that like the private lessons in particular have kind of, the way I see it, taken place of what a lot of modern kids are missing, which is like maybe a sports team or like a coach, a mentor, of some kind of way. The local, again, to go way back, the local shaman or whatever it is, but just having that like nice adult relationship that's friendly and trusting, is really important for all of us. I mean, even now, like there's mentorship programs you can get and have somebody do a life coach, but just having somebody in your life kind of help with that.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, private lessons add that element, right? And I've seen it change people's lives. Like literally, we've had people that were suicidal, and then them learning how to play this chord or this instrument has changed their lives, and maybe it came at just the right time.
Yeah.
And so I've seen that part of music, and it's very personal. So to kind of make it a big thing, right, that you're going to sell, it's going to cause some issues.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're taking the donations and we're taking some of the rehearsal rent money, and we're using that to offset the teacher pay for the lessons. So if a student is like, on food stamps or something like that, it's limited income and can't afford, because private lessons for anything is expensive,
Yeah.
whether it's taekwondo or swimming or soccer, all that stuff costs a lot of money. And that's a barrier for a lot of people. Even an adult that's, maybe recently divorced or, just doesn't have the income, or their rent's super high and they don't have an extra couple $100s to learn a guitar. Not only that, go buy one and all that. So we're going to provide, and we have been providing free instruments already, but so to remove that barrier for somebody and then make the lessons cost something that they can afford, right?
Yeah.
And not have that hit the teachers, because that's not fair to them. And so offset for the teachers, right? And the money, where's it coming from? It's going to be coming from the community and other musicians, right? And the rehearsal spaces are meant to cover longtime musicians, right? If you're in a band and you're gigging, you need that loud rehearsal space that you can do that's like safe and accessible. And you want to practice at 11 o'clock at night, like because of the hours, because you work all day, right? That's the other issue, right?
Yeah.
Is like, well, even if you have a spot, you can do it. The time doesn't always work. Maybe you have like a baby or that's sleeping or something, right? Or somebody that just can't handle the loud music. So having that for your seasoned musician covers kind of what's needed for them, right? And
It's like that trickle-down effect. Like someone rents the room,
exactly
pays you guys money, and then that money goes towards helping a kid learn how to play the guitar.
right, and then
That's
eventually
awesome.
they'll be in that room renting it. And yes,
Full
and
circle.
rather than it being like cannibalistic, which I've seen in the music industry, where the venues have got a new permit that's gone up in price, and so it becomes this thing in the art industry where there is so little like monetary support in a lot of ways that it can kind of make people feel desperate. And you will have a venue that's like, well, we can't pay you, and then the band's going to be upset that the venue can't pay them. But the reason the venue can't pay them is because their overhead is so high. It's not that they don't want to. It's that their rent has gone up. It's that these things cost more. It's that they slapped a permit on them just because they want to have all ages. So it'd be easier just throw the all ages part out and just do a bar. And so that's why like the all ages clubs are so like hard to find, like because it's expensive for them.
So you guys actually have a space now?
We have a space now, but there's nothing inside it.
Okay.
It's empty.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an empty, renovated basement of the old Eagles Hall.
Okay.
Yeah, in Bellingham. So what's cool about it is it's historic. It was built in like 1908 or something like that to be a community music and arts space. And through the years, it's gone through all these things, right? And it saw its time. And then the owner, he bought it, renovated it, and he kind of rented the top section out and was like, what am I going to do with this bottom part? And it's zoned for, community art space still.
Oh, cool.
And so people were asking about putting in, a bar or this and that. And he's like, well, we're not really zoned for that. He's like, I kind of was thinking like an art space and again, there's an okay amount of support. I'm sure they wouldn't say it, but there's definitely a lot more art galleries than there are like music spaces, right? Like if you're a painter, like you can find a spot to go do that and the equipment. But again, music, not so much. So when we got in there, like, and I saw it was at a basement level, so I was like, oh, that's going to help our sound issues. And they had a little stage in the corner. I was like, there's already a stage here. And,
cool.
And then the history of the place, I found some old, like, flyers of, like, bands that had played at that address, in the 70s and 80s. And
Oh, that's cool.
so, like, there's all this history. I'm like, oh, we get to not only just rent the space, but now we're bringing this back, too. And we're, like, reviving this old building, this historic, it's, like, downtown Bellingham. Like, because we were looking at, warehouses out in the outskirts and trying to just like save on costs and just again noise issues, right? Because if we're on the top floor downtown with 12 bands going, like it's not going to work for the neighbors. So we wanted to make sure it was a place that we didn't have any noise problems at all.
Yeah.
So in the basement, like once you close the door, you'd never know that there was a bunch of bands
That's
in
awesome.
there. So right now we're building the rooms. So
Okay.
It's been renovated as the whole building, but there's not. It's like the same thing you're doing here, just kind of sectioning out these little cubes and so yeah.
So that's what because I think I saw online it was like you're on phase 1 right now.
Yeah.
Just collecting donations to do the rooms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just got enough to start construction on the first part of that.
Oh, great.
Like yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you doing it yourself?
So no, we hired a local contractor. I've been assembling what I call.
Come on, DIY, Mike.
I
Come
know,
on.
right? Well, yes.
You're like, I don't do drywall.
Exactly. Well, we're going to have a paint party for sure. And but I wanted to bring in, local businesses. And so we're just having all local businesses help us with whatever it is.
That's
so,
great.
Like today I'm going to go meet somebody to like help scan the place and they're a husband and wife team that do like media work in Bellingham and stuff. So we've been really making sure that we are just trying to partner up right from the get-go with locals, and like that's AMP has been helping us, and like we're gonna
Oh,
be
great.
doing stuff together, and you can just like imagine like a concert like Amp at BHAM, Amplify Bellingham, right? Like
Yeah.
like all these cool crossovers.
Mixed BHAM, Amp, and Swamp.
Totally, right? Like,
You
oh
got
my
a
gosh,
party.
it's there, right? Yeah. And one of our newest board members, he also works at Mount Baker Ski Area. So, we're going to be trying to do events. So that's like the other arm of it is like concert support and being able to link bands. And again, it's stuff I've already been doing. Like, people ask me, like, oh, you need, like I just, like even Jack Mattingly, like Nurhachi, I'm like, hey, I know so-and-so, or contact Martine, or, the Blue Room, or whatever. I've just been, because I know enough people, or,
Yeah.
oh, you're going to play Seattle, like, talk to so-and-so, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. So I have those connections, and from being from that area, I can also kind of help bridge gaps with bands from Seattle that want to play Bellingham, and vice versa, and Anacortes, and Oak Harbor, and Skagit area, and, like, being able to kind of link, like, the northern part, right, of our
Yeah.
state and
Well,
our music scene.
I mean, the concert part is huge because I was just thinking, I don't think I ever would have known what the Anacortes Music Project was if I didn't go, say, to AmpFest or to Shipwreck, what they were
Right.
sponsoring, and they bring it up every single break, and they have shirts, and
Yeah.
never would have known what. And I can't believe all of the amazing things they do. Like, I didn't even know they had a radio station until I was like
Right?
telling someone, like, I really want to do internet radio. I want to have no rules. And someone's like, you should do the Amp radio. I go, what's that?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just don't know.
No,
Yeah.
it's so cool, and so we're doing our best to just reach out to all the locals, and like I've had a couple very simple criterias is that they're kind and kind-hearted and intelligent. Like that's kind of it, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's very broad, but those are the kind of people that we've been going, again, kind of like you were saying, like if they have passion and they have that heart, then even if they have more experience or more money or whatever it is, like that's not necessarily what we're after. I want to make sure that we're fostering like a team and a community of like, just kind people where you just get that, like a nice feeling when you talk to any one of our board members or you run into somebody. Like we've just been putting the board together, but like it's an amazing group of people. Like,
How many people are on your board?
right now there's 4.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have a startup committee. There's like another 11 on that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And it's a mixture. It's a lot of people in education. So it's a lot of like retired school teachers, middle school, high school, elementary. Our board president is an ex school principal. So, and then, they all have like, I've taught usually their kids, or so I've kind of got to know their families and things like that. So they've all had music they either play themselves or they've had a child that's learning or they're on that journey in some way and understand that. And then tried to bring in, at least especially on a startup community, like some younger people on our committee and like, bring in somebody from middle school, from high school, and have them join the adults as equals and give like power to youth.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for me too, is that like there's youth making decisions on our committees of like what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like,
Instead of, us 40-year-olds going, I think the kids want to do this.
Yeah.
Just ask them.
Stop
They're right here.
having those meetings. I've been to them. Like I had a dad that was, like I said, he was in the education, and there's a lot of those meetings. I'm guessing, and I'm like, could we just have the kids come in? And I remember thinking that when I was a kid too. Like, why don't they, and they'll put. I think I was actually. Now I remember I was ASB president for my 8th grade, or vice president. But yeah, they give you a sense of like, oh, you can pick what, deadly sodas we're gonna put in our vending machine. Like, what about the homework thing? No major decision. But yeah, so trying to do that and just spread it out. And then again, like our vice president, he's the media coordinator for Mount Baker Ski Area.
Oh, cool.
So he's like very tied into Bellingham, and we have like a homeschool teacher. But yeah, the mixture is all very much like family friendly, like artistic, education. Like they all have that in them, and that's what they do, and they've already have that passion. So it just made sense, like, to bring them on as the board. And
So I guess if someone's listening and they're like, oh, this sounds like incredible, what can I do? Like, so
Yeah, go to the website. That's
Yeah.
how we found a couple of them.
yeah. So
Was
I know you can donate, but then are you still looking for board members,
Oh,
or
yeah.
you are?
Yeah,
Okay.
the way we said it, especially with the president, is there's a 2-year term limit. So just to kind of make sure that there's no inside corruption, we're changing that president out every 2 years. Like by our bylaws, like we have to do that.
And I think fresh ideas are great.
That's part of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And if someone's listening and they're like, I don't know what I have to offer, like, could they just like write you and say, I just want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
I'm passionate.
Yeah, and the way we've done that too is I've been a big proponent of people doing what is unique to them and what sparks their interest and what gets their like heart into it, right? So, and sometimes people don't discover that till after a meeting or so, and they'll come and they'll kind of listen and then they'll go, oh, wait a minute, you know what? I love baking. Like I'm always doing this, and like I'm like, yeah, I've had your cookies. Like maybe I could do a bake sale
Oh,
at
cool.
one of our events. And I'm like, yep, there you go. You're our food event person now. She's like, oh my God, like, cause I don't play any, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and we'd have people kind of reach in and be like, oh, you know what? Actually, yeah, now I think about it, I do help out the Bay Theater, who's like a nonprofit for doing this similar thing we are for acting and stage and theater.
Oh, cool.
And they do like lessons and plays for kids. She's like, well, I do all their some of their backdrops and volunteering, and I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like then there's our connection. I was like, let's help out Bay Theater and see what we could do for them, and maybe we could maybe we could record one of their performances and professionally produce it, and then like the parents in the community could like buy the musical, download it or something like that. Like
Yeah.
that's a simple way we could help with connecting with them. But
Yeah.
so getting Bellingham specific things, Bellingham has mountain culture, it has lake, it has the ocean. There's so many things going on there, right? There's like fishing, a lot of outdoor stuff, and then just a lot of like great art culture and pop-ups and farm to table, and just like there's just so much. But it's unique to Bellingham,
Yeah.
right? And so I want to make sure that we're honoring what's unique to Bellingham. And like the skateboarding culture is pretty big there. Like I've been kind of partnering up a little bit with some of those guys. There's a skate collective. They just got a whole, multi-million-dollar park going in under the bridge there downtown at the waterfront.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and that's just a group of passionate people
Yeah.
trying to do something good for the community and for everybody, right? And so we're just trying to like link up with everybody at this stage right now, like,
Yeah.
the most we can.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. I love that you're kind of open to all these like new ideas. All right. Well, I'll direct people to your website.
But
Yeah.
things have happened so fast with this place. Like obviously it's been a long time like thinking about it and having these ideas. I once I started putting the idea and started talking to people, everybody was like, oh yeah, of course, yes, that makes sense, yes. And it's just happened, it's grown so fast, and there's been a lot of, I don't know if synchronicity is the right word, but there's just been these weird kind of cool connections that have happened since putting this into place.
That just means you're on the right path.
I think so.
Yeah.
Right? And the certain people I'm running into, I mean, even to go back to that like first band I was in, like the fact that he's in Bellingham now and called me up and like, hey, let's practice. And we're like, where do we practice? I was like, no. But so there's even like a potential of like, that old band Shiver getting back together, even just for fun or whatever it is. But and then meeting like new people in Bellingham and then figuring out like our graphic designer plays in the symphony, and like I just saw them do like all the John Williams stuff. And,
Oh, cool.
And I was like, oh, I was at your show. Like, so cool, it makes sense that you should be doing our logo, and you help out nonprofits. Oh, that was your logo too. Like, oh, cool, you'd be perfect. Let's do that. So, and then just being able to kind of bridge, from the very beginning of my music career all the way through, going to Seattle and doing some of these other things, and kind of bring all of that together and put it in and just help as many people as I can, because that's really for me like what it's about. and that's the stage I'm in. I checked off the boxes. I'm living the dream. I've been living off of music since I was 16.
Yeah,
in
and you
one
have your
form or
kid.
another. I have my kid. Like,
Well,
you
and
know.
you said when you put this idea out, you said you had a few people contact you and say, "Oh, I've been thinking about doing the same thing."
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna refer to do you know the Tragically Hip?
Yeah.
That band? They have a song called Wheat Kings, and in the chorus he sings, or before the chorus he sings, "No one's interested in something you didn't do."
Right.
I actually have it tattooed right here on
Oh,
my
I
arm.
love that.
But you're doing it. Like, so many people are like, there should be some kind of spot in Bellingham, you know, and then they go home and they sleep off their beer and they forget about it.
Yes.
And you're the one doing it.
Yeah, and that's what
So-
I've seen just for years in the music and arts community too, right? Is it takes somebody to do that. That's how you get the amp, and there's like the makeshift in town, and
Oh, I love the makeshift.
yeah, and so all sorts of, you know, it just takes a few people, right, to do
You
that.
can have all the ideas in the world, but you have to start.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work. This is,
Yeah.
I mean, nobody is getting rich off this except for the community.
And I know that you're going to have a ton of people around you, but like, kudos to you for like actually biting the bullet and starting this. So
Thanks.
good job.
It's been challenging, but you know, nothing worth doing isn't. So
Yeah. Zoe's very proud of you, I'm sure.
yeah, I don't know. I'm getting into uncool, you know, dad phase.
Oh, you said
like-
she's 13?
Yeah.
Oh, my daughter just turned 13. We could have had
okay.
2 hours on that.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, that'll be the next one. But
Part 2.
yeah, no, she's amazing. She's teaching herself guitar sort of too. I took her to her first concert. I told her if she got, you know, did really well, since I'm part of the reinforcement in school, I'll let you pick any concert you want to go to. And she picked Slipknot, and I was like, oh. I didn't know you listened to Slipknot. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, I totally have some of their albums, right? And I'm like, because I love metal and stuff, but I just hadn't listened to it around her. And I was like, do you really know them? I'm like, are you posing? I was like, what songs do they have? She's
Name
like,
a song.
Right. So she started naming, and then she's singing along. I was like, all right, cool. So I got
That's
her
awesome.
tickets and got to take her down to White River Amphitheater, and we got to see them, which is was a lot of fun. So.
I took my daughter to a sold out arena show in Seattle. It's AJR. Do you know them? 3 brothers. They've been doing it since they were like 15.
Yeah.
They're selling out arenas. And I remember Olive walking up to the curtain, like before you walk in. And she just broke down, just started sobbing. And I was like, oh my God, it's real. Like, she really loves this.
Yeah.
We went in. I knew she loved music, but we went in. And I swear to God, she screamed every single word. I didn't know she knew them that well. And she was like crying.
She'll never forget that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And then she'll want to do the same thing, you know, she'll have that memory and she'll want to do the same thing with her family or friends or whoever.
I
you
mean,
know?
her bedroom is right beside a recording studio.
Yeah.
So
Right.
hopefully some of this stuff rubs off on
I know,
her.
that's the same with my daughter. So I think that's why she picked flute, right? Because I play like 11 instruments, and flutes, you notice not one I mentioned. And so I'm like, dang it. Like, you know, I almost learned it. So then I was like, no, like it's her thing. Right? So I can help her with other stuff. But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons she picked it.
Well, I'm looking forward to her, I'm sure, first album one day.
Sure. I'm going to
soon
have
down the
her.
road.
I had her like do some guest stuff when she was like 5 or 6 on
Oh,
some of our
cool.
demos. Like,
Yeah?
like squealing and screaming in the background. I put on a bunch of delay and stuff. She's, I'm like, yes. It totally sounds like some crazy synth, like some Moog synth gone nuts, but it's just my kid running around. Like, but yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna figure out maybe how we can get her on like the next MakLak album, maybe a flute thing or something. Do like a Marshall
Do
stack.
like the like the Sabotage intro with the flute, but like her version,
oh
you
my
know?
God. Yeah.
Let's do it.
I love it. I love it.
All right, well, hey, thanks for coming on, Mike.
Dude, thank you so much.